Benjamin Netanyahu, who did another podcast appearance, this time with the trigonometry guys.
But one of the things that we have heard here in the West, and I wanted to get your perspective on it, is that in the run-up to what happened on October 7th, for many, many years, Israel was allowing, the Israeli government was allowing Qatar to pump money into Hamas.
Well, I think it's hogwash. I mean, we're stuck with Hamas. I was actually against leaving Gaza because I said this will be overtaken by Hamas, and Hamas will use it as a platform, will use Gaza, a de facto Palestinian state in Gaza, to pellet us with missiles and rockets.
So there we have Benjamin Netanyahu essentially trying to downplay the idea that Israel allowed money to flow in from Qatar to fund Hamas over the past decades leading up to October 7th. And he says that's hogwash. Let's just go through what actually happened. So New York Times reports that, quote, for years, Israeli intelligence officers even escorted a Qatari official into Gaza, where he doled out money from suitcases filled with, quote, millions of dollars. There's one. Netanyahu was also quoted at a Likud party conference in 2019 saying, quote, those who oppose a Palestinian state should support the transfer of funds to Gaza. The whole point of funneling money into Hamas for Israel was to separate Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, the two rivaling government entities pretty much in Gaza and the West Bank, in the occupied territories. The point of propping Hamas up was, in Netanyahu's own words, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is part of our strategy to isolate the Palestinians in Gaza from the Palestinians in the West Bank. The point of this was to isolate the people under the rule of Hamas in Gaza from the people in the West Bank under the rule of the Palestinian Authority. And Hamas, being the more radical extremist group, portrayed to the world that all the Palestinians were radicals. All of them didn't want to make peace. All of them were terrorist supporters. That was the point. Also, and just for more proof that this was the policy, on October 8th, the Times of Israel had an article titled, quote, for years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in our faces, end quote. And another Netanyahu quote, everyone knows this, but we control the height of the flame. Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, was the ones facilitating the money coming in from Qatar, millions of dollars to Hamas to prop them up. Both Mossad and IDF's Gaza division went to Qatar to, quote, beg the Qataris to keep sending money to Hamas. But his only response to all this is hogwash. Yeah, okay. There's still all this, so you didn't answer for any of this.